Hi there, my name is Dani Henderson. Welcome to my lovely channel. My guest today is a mentor of mine. Personally, I've known this great man for over 21 years. He is the Very Right Reverend Dr. Chris Lemmon. Welcome, sir. How are you?
Good.
I love the simple answer. I'm good. You are a man of many words and sometimes a man of few. Many of the things I've learned from you over the years have been absolutely phenomenal in terms of metaphysics, quantum physics, economy, mathematics, sacred geometry, energy, how we work with energy. But one of your top subjects, I feel that you've taught many, many hundreds of thousands of people over your very long career, is the subject of human potential. Now, could you give us an idea of what does that mean to you, Dr. Chris?
Yes. I guess it's my own personal journey looking like, what can I do? Because I was a sickly little kid and I had to figure out what to do. So I started asking questions, and I found that asking questions outside, what can I do, didn't get me anywhere. I could feel something and they would always have a story. So potential for me is something that I kind of learned, like a lot of us do in life, is like, how do we integrate this? People started coming to me and saying, how can I do some potential? How you tell great stories? How can I have these stories? How can I do these things? And I'm just saying, you got to understand the two different sets of questions. So first off, you are a stream of potential. You were born as a stream of potential. You came into form. They didn't have a blueprint. They didn't have a building block. You're not on a computer monitor somewhere. You were born. You came into form. You flowed into it, and you learned at an amazing rate. You learned, they say kids learn a brand new word every 90 minutes in use. They can use it. And so it's just amazing. That's total potential. Why does that ever stop? Well, I think it stops because of the fact that we start to wander outside in the outside world. When I'm talking about inside, I'm talking about in the concept of you, not something inside your brain or something inside your skin or under your shirt. I'm talking about the whole dynamic. You want to call that a soul, you want to call that, I don't care what you call it. To me, it's just simply like, I feel I can do something. Right. And that's why, in basic classes, I can speak, believe it or not, in basic classes, why we teach people to ground their body and start to feel the energy flow through the body.
Yeah.
So that they can get a sense of exploring this internal piece. What is this matrix in here that's going on? There's just a lot of function going on in there that we can't really account for. It's just interesting. So you start to feel it, you start to attend to it, and then you feel, I can do better than this. It's not a competition. It's just simply, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. And so you start playing with those ideas. Then as you start to get a feel for it, that's when you start to go outside. The world that we live in, the world that we inhabit, the world our bodies are stuck in and we interact with people in, is totally different world than potential. This is all structured. This has all limitations. This is all, thank you, Albert Einstein. We just put it all together. There's no gravity. There's just a bend and twist in space-time. It's all made up of chunks. And the chunks are just simply potential chunks, which is what we started out with. Come on, if an electron is just a potential wave and we attend to it, we have a relationship with it, and then all of a sudden becomes a particle, guess what? You're just a stream of potential, and a relationship with it makes you something. So that's development of potential. Now you got to map it out in the world. You got to put it somewhere. You got to get it out there. So outside, you say, how do I do it? Inside, you say, wow, I got to feel my potential. I got to get a sense of this because I'm going to take it outside to play. I got to learn how it operates. So it takes some internal time, we would call meditation time, downtime, counseling time. Maybe you need to sit down with another person, someone to be able to help you a little bit, get your head around like what it is that you feel you can do. I don't know. I went to college in electronic engineering and I graduated in psychology. That's a big jump. I don't know where that ever occurred,
That's a fairly big jump, Dr. Chris.
Yeah, it's like, whatever. So, I mean, I can say I have no idea why I wanted to become an electronic engineer, but then I got stories about it, but I don't know. I mean, a story is just a story, right? And I could tell you what I wanted to do with a psychologist, but I never did the electrical stuff. I never really became a psychologist in the manner I was turning into or wanting to or imagining that I was going to do. So this stream of potential, I felt, I played with it, I put energy into it, I worked with it, I did something with it, and then it grew into something out here, which is what we do by the time we're born until we're past. It just grows into something. You got to take the potential and feed this package and let it come into something, and don't judge the package. Go with it, right? And so that's the amazing piece. And I don't know why that's so complicated. I just got so many people that say, I just don't know what to do. And I'm going, oh my gosh, what do you feel you can do? Talk to me. What's your dream? What's your vision? What inspires you? What gets you up in the morning? You know, why didn't you just die last night? You got up this morning. Okay, what's in it for you? What's in the game for you? What's going on? Where can you go with it? And then we can talk about implementing that. It's like, God, it's so amazing. When I had a center and you were there, I had people come in, they wanted to do this and wanted to, and I'd say, hey, you can use my center for free. You want to do a lecture, you want to do a talk, book it. Use my center. No charge. If you get it good, you get it running and you start making money, then you can start paying me. But use the building. Come in, use it. Use it on a Sunday morning, use it on a Saturday afternoon. I don't care, whenever. Let me know and just use it. You're welcome. Don't cost you anything. Go do it. I maybe like 2 people out of about 50 or 60 that actually showed up and did something.
Right.
It's like, wow.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Weird.
That's massive. You know, there's a massive, I really believe, like, as we are ascending as humans, and I truly believe we are on this massive jump in evolving or trying to, and the masses are like, well, why don't all the UFOs land? And everybody has a reason why something's not happening. But there is a fundamental, I believe, lack of
Right.
self-awareness. I feel like so many people are pushing outside, looking for the heroes of the world, looking, and then finding something in them to be pissy about, whether they admire them at first because of the dream and the information they're bringing, which is lighting the person up, but then the person's hitting a level of their own potential evolvement at that level, and then they can't go beyond it, and they start to attack it. And I'm seeing it more and more every single day. It's just quite incredible to me. And I feel like every single one of us is a level of evolving, you know, and deciding which way to go, rather than just being blown in the wind. But then we make other people more important than us by staring and observing what they're doing, but finding fault in it, rather than saying, hey, something in me is getting triggered by that. Why? Do I feel I can do the same thing? Do I agree with this? Do I need to get my own information out? Do I find fear from what they're saying because I'm going to have to do something? You know, what do you think about that, about the current kind of situation with many people falling apart?
Yeah, and I think that's where it falls apart. I get so many people that come in, they say, oh, I know I'm here for something special. You know, spirit's talking to me, blah, 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 you know, whatever. My dead aunt's telling me I'm going to be a dancer someday or something, right? Those are all streams of potential. Those are things that are kind of nice. It's like a dream. It's a fantasy. It's a thing that we make, because all imagination is a fantasy. This is all, we imagine this and then we build it. Look around. We imagine it and we build it. I don't know who we are, but we imagine it and we build it, and here it is. And so now we're part of it. And so when you start to see that, they get all this, and then they think this inside should tell us how. Come on, if you're lost in the woods, would you close your eyes and say, okay, I'm going to go inside and my guide is going to get me out of here? Well, pretty soon you're just going to be a pile of dust in the forest. You're going to have to probably get up and move your feet to get out of that forest, right? You're going to have to walk somewhere. It's just, and we're so driven by patterns of redundancy. We learn everything we learn, we put into a context. I mean, my goodness, you know, people come back and they talk about languages and communicating in other countries. And I said, well, a language just means it's a term used to describe a symbol. What we lose ourselves sometimes on the reality of the fact that a tree is a symbol. We kind of think of a tree as like something, but if it's just a symbol and I say a tree and I think the symbol, then somebody in Morocco or somebody in Thailand will look at me and go, oh, and he rattled something off. And they just got the same symbol I did. It's a tree. That's it, right? We just talk in images. That's most certainly what we do. So our potential is an image for us. We just got to make it happen out there. If I want a tree, well, yes, a tree is kind of a big deal. If you go plant a tree in the backyard and you wait around for 60 years to grow, yeah, it's kind of a big deal. So I'd want to buy a tree that's kind of like 10 feet tall, put it in the ground, and then I'd have a tree, right? But I bought a piece of property. I've got, 7 trees on this piece of property. So it's like, yeah, it's really nice. It puts out shade. It's great, and I've got little meditation areas. You can walk and sit under a tree and contemplate the meaning of life or whatever it is. Those are all internal elements. We can feel them. The stuff outside, we then have to integrate it some way, shape, or form. I still got to go out every couple of years and trim my trees, right? And every now and then I got some that are 50, 60 feet tall. So I got to pay someone to come out because they're like a monkey. They climb up in that tree and cut the branches off. And it's like, holy cow, can I do that at 80? No, I don't want to go do that. It's like, you gotta be crazy, right? Maybe when I was 14, I would have done that.
Hang on, hold on a second. Hold on. Yeah. You, mate, you are up and down fixing people's roofs. This is a very recent thing, so you're not going to get away with that, my love.
No, I was up on my roof this morning too, to be truthful.
But, Mr. 80, I don't think I'm going to be doing that.
Right.
That's on fire.
Well, I like to build things. I like to keep active. And but and I think we need to get into it. What we learn in the real world is that we learn that there are obstacles. In other words, there are things that we can bounce into. Give you an example. I had a girl that came in, and another psychic and myself were sitting. We happened to be in Berkeley at the time, and at a center down there. And she came in and she said her little brother was sitting on the bench, and everybody was playing softball. And somebody said, eyes up, because a ball was coming towards the bench where people were sitting. And he put his head up, and then he froze. So it became catatonic. He just froze. The ball didn't hit him, went over his head, but he just froze. So he's been in an institution now for several years. And now they're talking about going in and doing something to his brain, surgery, so that he's less reactionary. So she wanted some help. So this other guy and myself, we said, okay, well, we'll go to the hospital, we'll go see him. So she brings him outside, and we're sitting on a bench, and I stand up and I'm talking to my partner, and I said, hey, we'll have him on a wheelchair, we'll have him sit next to you, and I'll stand up and I'll kind of manage the energy out here so that we look like we're just socializing. We don't think we're doing something weird, so they don't throw us out. And so this guy's sitting here in a wheelchair, and my partner's sitting there looking at him, and he's looking out, and this kid is sitting there, he's catatonic, so he just sits there and stares out like this, and they got to kind of feed him, and he drools, and they're trying to do something to him so that they can make him easier to clean and manage and everything. And so, his sister's over there saying, I don't want to hurt my brother. So it's like, I got it. So my partner's there, and my partner says, oh my gosh, that's really a big guy. And this kid, who had not talked or moved on his own in 5 years, turned his head and say, yes, and he's got a big stick. He was stuck on a picture. When someone said eyes up, he looked up and he imagined a picture of some big guy smashing his head in with a stick. I don't know, what do you want to call it? Past life, a comic book, movie? I don't know. It's a picture, right? Right. And the kid froze in fear. And there is 5 years in an institution. They can't fix him. And so, 2 weeks he's out. And he came by to thank us. It's just profound, right?
Oh my God. Honestly, this is why you've been my mentor for 21 years, because the stories and the healings and the revelations and the human potential. And the thing with you, Dr. Chris, is you never bullshit. You will not allow yourself to stick with one stream of consciousness or one stream of information. You basically open it up so everybody has an opportunity to think or imagine. And one of the things that you taught me was all those years ago was take action towards the thing you want to happen. Like you said, if you're just going to sit in your house and eat your Cheetos in your mum's basement, your life is not going to change. Your lover of your dreams is not going to knock on the front door, because you are stagnant energy sitting there in a ball of nothingness, not even fizzing with life force energy. That story of that little boy is absolutely mind-blowing and true. And you talked about pictures. Now, can we help people with this? I love the subject of seeing pictures. Like I tell people, when you talk to me, I see your pictures. I've always been able to. Some people label that ability clairvoyance. Some people will listen to someone as they talk and feel everything they're saying, which translates into images in the mind. Clairsentience, I do that too, as do you. Then other people go, oh, that's empathy. Yes, it's a deep level of empathy. And we have to be careful when we are empathizing, I believe, not to get stuck on that person's energy frequency, stuck on their pictures, because then we take on a lot of that emotion if we're not careful. Can you talk to us a little bit more about pictures, please?
Yes. It sticks so many people when you start to be able to, and I've taught intuition for years, and it sticks so many people when they sit there. I remember a girl that came in, was taking classes, and she had some background from Cuba, from Santa Maria, and so that's what she grew up with. So she knew a little bit of Santa Maria stuff, and she had a lot of questions about that. And so I'm just explaining to her, what you should do is relax a little bit and take a look at the pictures you're invoking. You're using some terms to invoke magic or some type of something, right? I'm not saying it doesn't work, but I'm saying if you're doing that, is the image you're creating, is that what you want to do? We might want to influence someone and maybe get some salesperson to give you a discount or something, but we most certainly don't want to kill people. So it's like, where do we draw that line? So start to look at the images. So it was really kind of interesting because of the fact that in about 4 or 5 months, all of a sudden she came to me and she says, oh my gosh, I have all these images pick up, and I look at them and they're all controlling and they're all very violent. And she goes, it's just kind of terrifying. And I think I'm getting possessed. I said, no, you're getting possessed. You're now seeing that art that you learned when you were a little kid was designed to defend people. That's what it was for. People were being taken advantage of. So it was a defensive move that they were to guard themselves and their friends and their family, their tribe. And so it's all a counter to defend themselves. You can go ahead and develop a system to love people. You can develop a system to be friends with people. You can develop an interchange with, it doesn't have to be, when you learn a system, you have to look at the history of it. And a lot of those were defensive. This piece of machinery is very defensive. We're born and we can't keep ourselves alive. We learn to defend. All the patterns in here are defensive patterns. The brain is all designed about defending you. We have to learn how to play with other kids. We have to learn how to be friendly with people. We have to learn to be nice to our neighbors, right? We have to be able to express a difference of opinion without trying to be right. And so we see a picture is what we see of the way it unfolds. Someone else sees a picture of the way it unfolds. If you start to talk, you can find that there's some common ground, and it's okay you have a different outpicturing. It doesn't matter, right? Because we're not all going to the same place. It makes no difference. So being able to see those things really just requires, number one, life experience. Maybe you all of a sudden had threatening experiences, dreams that became real, Most certainly, I can remember a time in my life I used to have these dreams. My father died, my mother remarried a Catholic, and all of a sudden I found myself in Catholic school. I'm not trying to pick on Catholicism, but it was like, all of a sudden it's like religion is all new to me. It's like, oh my goodness, what is this? And I had all these dreams about angels and everything else. And it's like, oh my gosh, they were all terrifying. I mean, they were all like out to get me. And so I was, for about a year, I was really troubled around 12, 13 years old. It's like, what is this? It's that I'd wake up just soaking wet in the middle of the night. And so at some point I said, wait a minute, I got to change my relationship with this. And so I can remember being in the woods one time. We were playing a game. I was a Boy Scout, and we were out in the woods, and it was dark. And I won't go into the details, it's too long a story, but bottom line, I was sitting out there and I'm going, I couldn't walk forward. There were tree branches, there was stuff. It was just pitch black. It was really a dark night and was in the woods. And all of a sudden I said, wow, my goodness, I need help. And then all of a sudden I saw this, felt terrifying to me at first. Something in front of me, terrifying. I thought, oh my goodness, what, I just came into a bear. Come on, I'm like 12 years old, a bear or something. And then all of a sudden I took a breath and I says, no, I need help. And all of a sudden there's this glow. I could see. It was kind of a greenish glow. I could actually see, I could look down, I could see. Not very well, but I could see. I walked out of the woods with that green glow. It's like, I don't know, what the heck was that? I have no idea. I've tried to do it since then, and I don't know, I can't make it happen. It's like, gosh, maybe I need to go get lost in the woods, and I could make it.
Yeah.
But there it was. It got me out of the woods. I came out and people said, oh my goodness, we've been looking for you for an hour. We couldn't find you. And I said, no, well, I just went for a walk. And there I was. So I don't know what that is. It's just, so all it is, it was a potential. It was a question of being able to ask the right answer. I needed to be able to ask something outside. I didn't need to come inside and say, is something going to get me? I didn't need, those are defensive questions. I didn't need to say, am I going to live through this? That's potential questions. I need to ask a mapping question. Hey, somebody out there help me. Somebody hold a light for me. Something held a light for me. I don't know what that was. There it is. And I got out of the woods and, lived for another day.
Yeah. It's incredible, the exchange of information, whether it's asking and screaming out for help, but then taking that minute to calm down, because like, as you say, we're built for defense, to defend. Right. The brain will always take us to a different area than pain, right? The brain will always try. That's why some people, when they're in trauma, the brain shuts down, it decompartmentalizes, creates what's known as an alternative aspect of itself. But it's just so amazing. People, I feel, need to learn and understand to help themselves that it doesn't always have to be a payoff. If we ask somebody for help, let's say it's a physical person, there are so many people who are programmed to say the WIFM, what's in it for me, the WIFM factor, what's in it for me. And I remember, jumping years and years ago, I was staying at the Bel Air Hotel with my friend Susie. We both were women of means in our 20s, doing very well in our careers in England. And we flew to, I was already living in California. She flew to Beverly Hills to play with me for the weekend. I was living in San Diego. We thought we'd go play there. So we had the money, our own money, and we stayed at the Bel Air Hotel. Now, there are these beautiful old-fashioned bungalows. I mean, Marilyn Monroe was there in the day, or that kind of 50s kind of decor. And I'm sitting with her, and we'd had a great day, and we'd had a few drinks around the pool. Now we were having dinner, and she'd bought these, I called them stripper boots. We were both married. And we both wore a pair of her boots for fun because, we're married, we're loyal to our husbands. I'm divorced now, and so is she. But at the time, and anyway, this man with this huge giant nose comes and just sits at our table. This rude older guy. Some older men, they make me die. Like, dude, look in the mirror and then look at these younger women. Let it go, man. It's not going to happen. But something in some men who have acquired this payoff mechanism. If I do something for you, you give me something in return. So anyway, this big nose bloke sits at the table and he's obviously thinking something's going to happen. I'm like, mate, we're married and we're having dinner. Was that, where are your husbands? Like, that's any of his business. I'm like, excuse me, off you pop. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. End of the evening, during that time, we get introduced to a guy. As you know, I've written for TV and film. And there was a guy in the bar who I introduced my Hugo the Dragon series to, my beautiful dragon, the big dragon who's really God. Anyway, I had a conversation with this guy, the good guy, Roger Burlidge. And we exchanged cards, and I made an appointment to go to his office on Monday to pitch my Hugo the Dragon series. Well, anyway, he leaves and Big Nose comes back over and sits down. And I'm like, oh my God, as politely as I could, dude, please leave. Anyway, it gets even more embarrassing just very quickly. The end of the evening, no one's in the restaurant but me and my friend and Big Nose. He follows us out of the restaurant. Our bungalow is, because they're all on the same floor, yards away. He tries to push me up against the wall and kiss me like an idiot. If a man comes at me, he's going to get hurt. I don't know where this violence comes from. My defense mechanism, I don't need weapons. Be careful. Ask my brothers. Spending years jumping out on me and ending up with black eyes. I think it's funny to make me jump, So this man then slithers like a big nosed snake in between behind my friend and goes into the hotel room.
Right.
This horrible, disgusting old man who to us 20-somethings is probably only in his 40s, but blech.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sitting there looking, I'm at this desk as a giant old-fashioned phone, which I want to smash him over the head with. And I get my phone out and start calling my husband. And this idiot, John, he reckoned he made the Madeline movies, that bloke with the big nose, Hollywood director, John Turtledge or something. He is trying to slither on my friend. He sees me on my phone. He goes, what's she doing? And Susie said, she's calling her husband. He's like, sure she is. I'm like, Mike, there's a man in our room. And I think he thinks it's on. And that slimy snake slithered out of the room. And me and Susie just fell about laughing. I'm like, I was about to donk him on the head with that giant heavy telephone in there. Like, he is so programmed, and directors and producers and other people in that Hollywood darkness, let's say, and other areas of business, where you have to pay with your body, your mind, your soul in order to get something. And there's a movement happening where there's a lot of focus on that, the with and what's in it for me. Anyway, that guy got the shock of his life. But then what he did do, when I had my meeting on the Monday morning, arsehole was sitting there at the desk and he went, hello, English, to me. I'm like, hello, John Turtle, Baum or Bum, whatever your name is. And my project didn't go forward, regardless. Now, I could be casting aspersions. That means I put more energy out, which is going to come back to me. So I want to neutralize that, right? But what say you about that? That kind of the potential that we use to get ahead, and those that have used their ability to imprison others in some way.
The problem with people that all of a sudden get everybody to go to their bed, they're playing for something we call power. And so you've got to start to recognize that potential is not one-upping on a power level. Potential is just simply, what can I do here? What can I do with this piece? That's what potential is. When those people get to a place where they think they can power everybody and dictate to all those people, that plays out a game for a while. It's like some leaders of some countries and so on and so forth. That's kind of like, yeah, they can play that game for a little bit of time, but there's so much energy that comes back in this defensive mechanism that they're constantly getting slammed. So they're angry, they're frustrated, and they think in the context of they're not happy is what I'm trying to say. They're never happy. They never get enough. They never receive enough. They never feel rewarded. They never really get to this potential piece. It's kind of like, if you're born with millions of dollars, can you do things and help the world? Sure. Or can you just sit around on TV and do drugs and drink booze and stare at the wall? Yeah, sure. But you don't feel satisfied. You don't feel like you've accomplished anything. So that's the whole drive of it. When you start to recognize that there's people that simply have got themselves in a position of power and they want to utilize that power, the best thing to do is to disassociate, right? So we play with either pushing from a crown or just disassociating with them, or sometimes you got to make a phone call, You got to call the police. You got to do something, right? Not an unusual phenomenon. When you start to play, when you start to notice an obstacle, and this is what you were talking about, because you were two ladies in a bar, you were trying to have a good time, relaxing, you were on an adventure, you were trying to, like, this place has a history of it. You're trying to fantasize like the history. This is really kind of cool. It's kind of fun. Marilyn Monroe, famous people have been here. Of course, you read the story of Marilyn Monroe, and she had the same kind of problem with directors and everything else too. Same issues she ran into. So it's really very sad. And all those women in there started together as an association and brought a lawsuit onto them that got them all millions of dollars. I have a friend of mine that used to write script that was a woman, and she got enough money out of that to buy a house. So out of that lawsuit. So it's like, so there's a day of reckoning. And so until that day of reckoning comes along, you've got to take a look at this in yourself, and you have to say, okay, maybe I need to disassociate from, maybe right now is not a good time to go on vacation to Ukraine, right? For example, right? Or something else. Does that make sense? It's not that Ukraine's a bad place. I know lots of Russians around here. I go to a Ukrainian coffee shop on a pretty regular basis. They're very nice, but it's kind of like not a good time to go visit, right? Yeah. And I've met them. I've met their kids. They're very friendly people. They're very nice. And I come in, I smile at their kids and wave, and then the kids come over and talk to me. Next thing I know, they're all sitting at the table and having coffee and talking about stories. So that interaction is what you start to put out to collect. You guys were putting out for an adventure. That guy toned in on your adventure because he was one of the slime balls that probably was harassing women for a long time in the Hollywood arena, obviously. Yes. And so when he saw that you were vibrating at that level, he thought, oh, you want to play my game, right? He thinks he owns it. So that doesn't bring him any joy. That doesn't bring him any accomplishment. That just brings him a frustration. He's always trying to one up himself. It's kind of like a drug addict. Where do you eventually go? What is the potential for a heroin addict? I have no idea. I can remember being in San Francisco one time, and I remember a guy OD'd. I was working at the time. I was working undercover. We were doing a journalist piece, and this guy had OD'd, and other people were going over syringes and drawing his blood out to take hits on his blood.
Oh my God.
He just died. And I'm thinking, I can't do this. I really can't. I can't be around this. Right. It's just like, yeah. So it's that same thing. I had to make, like you, I had to make a phone call. I made a phone call and I said, I'm done. I'm not doing this. I realized the world should know about this kind of stuff, but I don't want to be here. I don't want to be sitting in this energy. I don't want any part of this. I'm done. I'm gone. Yeah. Color me gone. Yeah. And so I had to just leave. It's that same thing. It's just like, I thought maybe if the world could see some of this stuff, maybe it would help. But when I saw that, I realized, no. I mean, if people saw that on TV, they just turn it off, right? What, they're not going to get anything out. It's too raw, right? Yeah. Yeah. That guy was too raw. And those are an imbalanced piece. So imbalanced pieces, when people run imbalanced pieces, they're usually not very healthy. Mm-hmm. So I'll guarantee you he's probably had health issues. And so most people then, to numb it, I just got done talking to a client this morning, and he's telling me he's been drinking more. And I keep telling him that's like, you're going to have problems. So he called this morning and he was telling me some of the symptoms that he had. Well, I can guarantee you his gallbladder has just gone south on him. And so I said, okay, so how many times a week do you get drunk? He said, well, just twice. I said, just twice. Oh my goodness. So how many drinks do you have? Oh, just a couple every night, but I actually go get drunk just twice a week. It's like, 50 years old. I'm saying, your body is not going to take this much longer, dude. It's just like, where are you going to go with this? He's to some degree like the guy that was addressing you ladies. He's not addressing a woman, but he's destroying himself. He literally, this guy was willing to victimize you. This other guy that I talked to this morning is victimizing himself. What is the matter with him? And so I look at this and I said, what is your dream for you? He said, well, I'm making good money. I'm working hard. Ah, it's not what I asked. What is your dream for you? Where do you want to go with life? You know, you're 50 some years old. You're single right now? Yeah, it didn't work out. Okay. So what else is in the cards for you? You want to try another type of relationship? You want to do something different? I don't know. Maybe you want to become gay. It's in fashion. Whatever you want to do, it's like, it's not a problem, right?
There you go again, rattling all the cages of humanity.
Yeah.
You bring us all in, and then you go, boop, and we go.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, not a problem. I got lots of friends that are gay. I had no problem at all. So you see all this is kind of like, and he's sitting at me, he's kind of like, well, the world's not very fair. And I'm going, what? If the world's unfair to you, then the question is, I need to feel my potential and I need to map a way to express that. I don't need to take something from someone else. I don't need to victimize somebody. It's not a competition. It's not a competition. I just need to be able to have that unfold for me. Let's just sit in the joy of life is what we need to do. It's like, what does that take, right? I don't need millions of dollars. I've got a wonderful wife. I got a wonderful family. I go travel in the world. I love meeting people from different cultures. It's just so much fun to sit there and just chit chat with people and try to piece words together and eat their food and go like, wow, they live here. They're on life just like we are. They interact in a different sort of way, but it's like they're real people. My goodness. And they're right there. And they'll actually listen to me because all of a sudden I'm a foreigner. So they want to, can I take a picture next to you? You're an American, I don't know how many pictures I had taken of me when spending 2 months in China. It's just like everybody wanted to run over and take my picture, next to me. Right. And it's like, yeah, they're all, my first trip to China, they were all real short. And now my last trip to China in 94, they've all grown up. The young people are tall now.
Be
the world
careful,
has changed.
You're triggering again, because this is the
Yes.
ridiculousness of humanity. Oh, he says,
Right.
oh, you sizist, not you racist, you
No.
sizist. Oh my God, he mentioned the Ukrainians. It's so funny. Let's go there a bit too.
Yeah.
So like I said to people before, you are one of the great people in my life and many others' lives who rattle the cages of humanity. But deep inside, you are the most loving being of light ever. But you will push to help people open up. And we need that sometimes. We can't all be, just lying down, wailing at that life and woe is me. When you mention Ukrainians, when I lived in Canada, there was so many jokes and snipes at Ukrainians. And I remember observing this as a person from England and recognizing that banter, which I didn't care for because I felt sorry for these,
Right.
The Ukrainians being made fun of. But it was the same as how the British over many years would pop off at the Irish. And the English, sorry, not the British, the English, because we've got to remember those that don't know, we've got England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales.
Right.
Ireland is a separate island next to the island of England, Scotland and Wales. There's 3 countries on one block and then Ireland's on its own. But Ireland's split into Northern and Southern Ireland. Part of that island belongs to Ireland as an IRE. The Irish, the great Irish, who I completely love and adore with all my heart. I do, it's true. Anyway, part of that country belongs just to the Irish and part of it belongs to Great Britain. I don't agree with any of that history, by the way. But anyway, my point is this.
Right.
If the English in England largely have made fun of the Irish and Ireland, calling them thick and stupid and all these horrible things which aren't true, because an Irish person will out-funny you and out-think you and out-maneuver you. So there's always been this kind of picking on different kind of races. And when you said about the Ukrainians don't go to Ukraine right now, it's not the best place to holiday. Well, that's a fact because there's so much misery, global misery on these beautiful people. And this whole light shining on that country is being deciphered and understood. But that attack on those people in particular, there are so many layers to that reason why that country is at war right now. And everybody has their own narrative about it. It's biolabs, it's Putin trying to take over, and everybody then listens to a piece, just a piece, They feel some kind of way about it, and they take that as truth, and then they shut down and they fuck off.
Right.
And then there's no more room for discussion or eyes on, or maybe thinking, you know, the politicians that you followed all your life that you believed, maybe they're full of shit and they lie, because like that John Turtlebum director, they take advantage of the position of power. What say you to that?
So that's just the same model that you girls ran into when you're in Hollywood. Here, all of a sudden, somebody has a stream of potential and a certain amount of power, and they want to express that potential and they want to manage it, and they think that's their right to do that. And then you've got other people sitting there with a different vision. I think that what we have to do, we have to recognize this potential is about you, and all this mapping out here is so that we can get along. This is really important. It's not about you just running the world. It's about you being able to interface with the world. You got to be able to get along. My goodness, if the guy would have just sat down and had a conversation with you ladies, he might have been very interesting. It might have been fun. It would have been something, it was a positive memory that you would have met someone and he could have shared stories with you, and that would have been great instead of being a jerk, right? And who makes those choices? I mean, yes, you're right. The only thing that we can do is walk away from those kind of people, right? There are some tools that we start to play with, and maybe we'll do one of these videos on them where we can start to influence, expand that separation a little bit, right? I see you say, because the fact that a lot of the stuff comes through them because it's controlling, it means that they're losing their own side of their potential. I see these people get very wealthy and they don't remember why they got started. They don't remember what they were trying to do in the first place. I see people be successful when they hold their dreams for a long time. I see other people become successful and lose it. And then it's all about collecting junk. They got cars, they got this, they got that, and it's just kind of silly. I had a guy that called me one time and he was dying, and he said, I don't know what to do with my Elvis Presley collection. I said, well, what do you have of Elvis's? He said, I got a warehouse, 12,000 square feet. I got $8 million in Elvis stuff in a warehouse. He says, yeah. I said, why? He said, well, it's all rare. So you're dying and you got millions and millions of dollars worth of stuff that's really rare. And you're saying, should you take care of that before you die or after you die? I don't know if it makes a difference either way, right? What's important to you about dying is to what? Support the legacy of Elvis? By the way, it's also dead. Or, oh, come on, I've been to Graceland. It's all fine. But, you know, I didn't spend $50,000 on a guitar and bring it home. It's like, what would I do with it? So I don't know. I'm kind of dumbfounded. I'm sitting there thinking, this guy is, yes, the guy has died. And the guy did. I finally said, why don't you, because you had the connections to buy it, why don't you sell it? Put that money in a bank. And then when you pass, you'll leave a legacy of potential for your family and for your cousins and nephews. That $8 million might actually help them get through education, might help some of those people get well. I don't see any value in having all that stuff in a warehouse in Arizona. Like, makes no sense at all, right? Like, wow, maybe you could sell it back to Graceland. Well, I doubt it. I don't think they'd want to buy it back.
Yeah. I mean, 10% of what it cost him to buy the stuff, of course.
Yeah, it's like, oh my goodness. It's kind of interesting. What I'm saying, I guess, is the value is in your potential always. Not in this stuff out here. This stuff doesn't necessarily, the terminology out there is what has more value than something else. Yes, we gauge this in what is the right way to go. If we're lost in the woods, we want to find the right way out. If we've got something that we just bought from IKEA and we got to assemble it, we want to put it together the right way so it don't fall apart. All those things are absolutely true. That's a mapping out there. So we then use language of like, that has value to do it right. Yes, but that doesn't have value to control the world. That's no value. Value is to be able to take this potential and implement it out here so that that has value. take this dream and bring it to value. That's the whole dance between the two. All this power thing just drives me crazy. People would come back and they'd say, I'm just depressed. Could you kill me? I said, I cannot like you, and I could walk away, but I don't have a problem killing you. I just can't see any reason why I'd want to. Why would I want to? You're telling me you got a problem and I got to solve it for you and I got to kill you? I'm sorry. What's in it for me? What kind of potential is that? This is totally ridiculous, right? I don't see anything. So if you want to kill yourself, go kill yourself. I don't care, whatever you do. But nonetheless, if you want to come talk to me, we got to talk about what you can do with this and not what we can do with it not there. Absence of everything is nothing, right? Zero. Gosh, it's like, I don't know. It's just such a struggle. I see people, it's kind of like, I got a guy that I counseled and he said, you know what, COVID, I haven't worked for 2 years. And he says, now it's just so hard to get a job. I said, yeah, you have to remember that life's a habit. It's all habitual. This is all habitual. You walk away from the habit of being, expressing yourself, being able to get up and think, wow, I can go do this. I can go do my job. I got friends to go out to dinner with. I can go see people. I can go out on dates. And all of a sudden you become a hermit for 2 years. And now you're sitting there saying, I don't know how to get back. I don't know why you left. I don't understand why you left. But getting back is going to be easy. You get up every morning an hour earlier than what you used to and go for a walk. And by the time you get back to the house, you're going to be awake. After an hour's hike, you're going to be awake. And then you can start to figure out what to do. Sitting in a house, staring at the TV, drinking or doing drugs or whatever, it's like, I'm sorry, you're never going to find, it's no mapping in that at all. None. Get out of there. Move.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
You know, it's amazing.
He's coming over for dinner next week. So it's kind of like he got out, he got a job, he's all excited. And he just got it all together. And he's kind of like, he said, I should buy you lunch. I says, no, I'm just going to cook you dinner. Come on over.
Oh, Chris.
And it's like, wow, we can celebrate together, right?
Yeah, yes. Definitely. You know, again, things I've learned from you over the years. So there's a couple of areas I want to go. I want to go to pushing on the crown. Not that I want to do exercises today, because I think we should do a separate broadcast where we bring some of those metaphysical exercises that you taught me 20 years ago, that I've been applying for the last 20 years, that have so worked. And in my clinic, my private clinic, my therapy clinic, which is currently shut down and no longer online right now. Mainly because of targeting and abuse and death threats and, you know, stuff that's scary stuff, you know, from people. Until that's calmed down, I don't feel safe right now. So I'm protecting myself. It's sad for the people I've been counseling for years and new people that want to come, but it is what it is right now. So I want to talk about matching healing, pushing on the crown, and we'll come back to those. But I also want to talk about, again, the healing that people are going through. Now, you mentioned the addict, the drunk. A lot of us are now, if we're really honest, facing our addictions. Nobody wants to call themselves an addict. We're all very easy to call someone else an addict. But an addict is somebody who sits in front of the TV all day. An addict is somebody who jumps from one broadcast on YouTube to the next, to the next, to the next. An addict is somebody who's looking for any kind of adrenal high, a physiological chemical response in the body that even if it's 10 seconds, like an orgasm, gives them some kind of a shift in their consciousness, in their physicalness. An addict. Now, I'm working with a guy who has a roommate. And they're just the loveliest people. They're both on a healing journey. They've both been through trauma. They've both been through potential, both of them, the female's been through addiction issues, alcohol. And the guy has lived with people in the past who've seen this, who's been on the end of trying to stop somebody driving a car. And, you know, it leaves you with bruises and scars. So the other day, his roommate had a couple of drinks, something she never normally drinks, like a liquor, and was going to go and drive his car, which she's got permission to, but he got triggered and stopped her rightly, and then he drove her to get more alcohol and drove back. And then he was done. He was over it. And he went into his own psychosis. His own triggers became just red hot. And he kind of put her in a box for 3 days. He couldn't look at her, couldn't face her. And he's a really loving guy, and she's a really loving girl. I know them both. But it was so much about his learning to witness self, handle his triggers, recognize he's still in healing, but also an opportunity for him to use courage and say to the girl, you have some addiction symptoms. You may not be drinking and drunk every day, but your behavior is alarming to me because I've been around addicts. So there's her opportunity. Now, what could happen in that scenario is she could get offended. He could just go like, I'm done. And the friendship could break. There is then a lost opportunity for two friends to hold each other and come into a healing. Now, you used to teach us back in your school, which I attended for 4 years, from 2001 to 2004-05 in Solana Beach, California. And it was the greatest education of my life, your school. And you taught us a lot about matching healings. So could you talk a little bit to the addiction element I mentioned and the matching healing and what you mean or what we mean by having a matching healing?
Right. So when you make a consideration for another person, I know my wife was saying to me just the other day, she says, it's really interesting. She says, I have a project, I have something I want done, and I talk to you and you help me, or you do it for me, or you do this. But she says, or sometimes you come along and you say, no, I'm not going to do that. And she goes, you're not going to do it? I says, no, you can hire someone else. You get someone else to do it, but I'm not going to do it. She got a gazebo for the backyard. And I said, I'm not doing that. I'm not putting it together. 385 screws and bolts, put that thing together, and it's going to be, you'll change your mind in 6 months, and it's got to be come down. Yeah. So she got a friend over, they put it all together. 6 months later, she took it all down, and we wound up giving it to someone in the neighborhood. It's all fine and good. I'm just not going to do that, right? It's not that it's a question of right or wrong. It's a question of what I want to participate in. So it's not a question of I'm stopping her. I'm not going to stop her. I'd get hurt. So I'm definitely not going to do that. But if she wants to do it, I'm fine with that. She can do whatever she wants. I have no problem with that. Now, if you ask me to engage, that's a different whole story. And that's where it's like, well, I support this. When we start to look at matching healings, it's a little bit the same thing. Someone comes in and said, I have a drinking problem. And I said, okay, fine. I don't have a drinking problem. So you could go find someone else that has a drinking problem, go to a bar and have a drink with them. And what you discover is that doesn't work, right? No, it doesn't solve it, right? So now you're coming to me and you say, I have a drinking problem, and I say, I don't. And you think I'm going to fix you. We're not on the same page. So what you have to do is you have to say, you have to find the potential for you in life to be a person who don't drink. So first off, you come and you sit in front of me and we sit there and say, okay, I don't drink. Match that. Can you get a sense of what that feels like? Because you don't have it. You got something else going on inside you. First off, you have to find the you that doesn't drink. I'm not anti-drinking. I'm just using this as an example, right? So don't anybody go put alarm bells up, right? We could say the same thing for cancer drugs or anything else, right? No matter what, right? It makes no difference, right? We're just human. We just do what we do. But if you want to make a change, then you have to find the element of that change inside you. Otherwise, you're wrestling with yourself. We got to remember, this is defensive. So now all of a sudden, if you drink and you have a label, hey, I'm a drinker, and now you want to stop, who are you fighting? You're fighting you. So this is an immune disease now that you're creating, right? It's counter to you. You got to find inside you the person who doesn't drink. Can you imagine that potential of me not being a drinker? Like, wow, is health important to you enough to be able to find that expression inside you, that vibration, that whatever that is? And so then I can sit with someone and said, let's map that. Let's play with that a little bit. I'll go to that space, you go to that space, match me. And then I'll separate. And then watch. I'll become the person who drinks because I drank already. I don't now, but I did. So I can find that, right? I just didn't get drunk, but I drank. And that's another whole story. So we get over here and I can go to a different vibration that says, now you feel the difference. And he goes, oh my goodness, it's almost like you're pushing away from me. Oh, thank you. And when you walk here and say, heal me, and you're pushing away from me, what am I going to do? Nail you to the floor, try to heal you? That doesn't work, right? We have to get a level of communication. There has to be an integrity on both sides. We have to both be able to go there. I was in a delivery truck working in San Diego, as a matter of fact. It was a rainy day in San Diego, which is odd in itself. And I looked out and there was a bus stop for handicapped people. And there's a guy in a wheelchair sitting at his bus stop, and it was raining. And I see this guy out there, and I thought, that's really sad. He's going to be drenched by the time the bus picks him up. I had a sweater in that truck that was in the back, and I had it in there in case there's a cold day. I'm thinking, like, really, do I need that sweater in San Diego? Probably not. So what I did, I put it in a plastic bag, and I went over to the guy, and I said to him, here's a sweater in a bag. When you get wherever you're going, you can change your shirt and you won't be sitting wet all day. And he said, oh, thank you. Oh my God, that's amazing. Yeah, because I go down to the clinic and then I'm sitting all day long. Let me turn this button off. I turned my phone off. It's buzzing. So I said, well, here's something to put on. And he said, thanks. He said, by chance, do you have a pair of pants in there that's a 36? He said, I'm not only soaking wet, but someone stole my spare pants. So I've gone to the bathroom in these pants and I've got nothing to put on. And I'm sitting there and I'm just, I look and I says, no. I just said no. I walked back to my truck and I'm going, I thought I was helping a guy and I really can't go there. I mean, I'm staying there and I couldn't go there. I couldn't be the person. Later on, I could imagine, I could have just went to the store and bought him a pair of pants down the street somewhere. I could have done a lot of things, but at the time, I couldn't become that. I couldn't. Do you see? If I just was the good Samaritan and I said, "Oh, I got more money than you. I've got legs and you don't." That's not who heals him.
Yeah.
Right. That's who's healing him in the medical model, but that's not who his healing is going to need. I just couldn't find that place in me. I don't think I've ever sat 2 days and go in the bathroom in my pants. I can't think I can relate. I don't have that reference. I can't do that. Right.
Yeah.
I was totally lost. So if you see how it's not just a question of magic or power or pushing something around. It's being able to get on an even keel with someone and say, let's walk together. I can support you. I can help you. Let's walk together. I can inspire you. I can help you. I can do whatever, but you have to be able to meet me. We have to do this together, right? So pushing from the crown, it's just like anything else. If you want to start a fight, you watch kids. One pushes the other one pushes the one back, and they're pushing, and they're pushing, and they're pushing, and they're pushing. It's like, so they're not matching each other. It's the exact same thing with a guy in a wheelchair. But if I push from the crown, that's my potential. Up here, my potential. I don't know where it's at, but it's up here somewhere. So, the term of crown is as good as anything else. It kind of sits on your head. Maybe it sits in your head. Maybe it's in your left ear. Maybe it's really in your toe. I don't know where it's at. But nonetheless, I can feel that, right? So if I push against you with my crown, you just feel that little push. It's not a competition. It's my potential saying hello to your potential. It's like saying, wow, you're a lovely lady. That's not an insult. That's not an insult. It's just pushing from the crown. It's a different story than said, hey, I give you $100, you want to have sex. That's a whole different story, right? So pushing from the crown is not pushing from other parts of your body. So all of a sudden, the relationship is my potential against your potential. I was trying to express the potential with a guy in a wheelchair, and he went to a place I couldn't go to. I didn't have that range, and I had to learn it, right?
Range. And I love how you often talk about range. And to you guys out there, Dr. Chris Lemmon and I have at least 4 other broadcasts on my channel, Dani Henderson, where you can sit and enjoy more of his inside thoughts, his theories, his brilliance. I have a matching story.
Right.
I was coming to your class years ago, So I was in my early 30s. Was I in my 20s? I forget. It's so long ago now. And I was driving my worked for and paid for. Look at me justifying before I land. My brand new Porsche Carrera 911.
Right.
He was
Right.
silver. He was beautiful, and I named him Kevin. And two things happened on the way to class. You taught us to use imagery to make something shift. So I used to live on Coronado, just an island off San Diego, and I shared the car, Kevin, our Porsche, with my husband at the time, and he was very possessive with that car. I would only get that car on class nights, and I would come to class at least twice a week, sometimes 3 times, maybe 4 on the weekend if you were doing a weekend seminar, which were always brilliant. I used to love driving as fast as I could over Coronado Bridge in the curve, because when people talk about Porsches, they're right. They do handle like they're on rails. There's no other car I've driven like it. So I used to push Kevin, make sure there's nobody around, sometimes wait till all the traffic had gone by, and then hammer it over Coronado Bridge, which is a 2.5-mile bridge. So I'm going over the bridge, round the corner, you know, at 50 miles an hour, you get a little sound, the spoiler goes out the back. The aerodynamics in the car was amazing. I've always been into cars and whatever. Anyway, I'm going just past the bend in the bridge, and there's a bloody cop. You know, what do they call them? Chips, the motorcycle cops in California. Right. And I'm so annoyed that this policeman is right behind my Porsche, and he's flashing his lights and he's telling me to get over. And I'm thinking, no, mate, not today. And so I glare at him in my mirror, and I'm saying, communicating, gently pushing on his crown, saying, no, 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 I'm a crazy lady. I'm a crazy lady. And then I throw up this image on the roof of my car on Kevin, and it's a man who from the waist up is waving his arms, and he's got long black hair, and he's waving around, and he's really scary and insane. And within 2 seconds, I swear to God, that man, that policeman, saluted me and turned off on Pershing Drive. And I carried on driving thinking, holy shit, it works. Dr. Chris Lemmon, you genius, this shit works. So I continue to class, and it's from Coronado up to Solana Beach. And I'm getting off the Solana Beach. It's called Lomas Santa Fe, I think, that road. Lomas Santa Fe, then we turn left down to your school. No, I can't remember. Anyway, we turn left. I turn left there. So I get there in Kevin, my brand new Porsche, feeling pretty cocky, feeling good about myself, feeling excited to go to class and share my story. And there's a homeless man on the side of the road. He's about my age, big green eyes. And I'm feeling so good. And I've got $20 in the little thing beside me. And this man's asking for money, holding his hand out. I pull up, I look at him and I go, hello, mate. And I hand him the $20. And he takes the $20, but he suddenly stops and he glares at me. And in my moment of just feeling good, I've got my car, I have a great life, I've worked really hard for it, I've got the spare $20 that might get him a hotel room or something for the night, or booze, whatever. No judgment from me. He whacked me. He energy whacked me, which I'm going to have you explain what that is in a second. I get to class and I said to you, oh my God, I got such a stomach ache. You're like, what happened? I'm like, I just gave this guy, this homeless guy. You went, he whacked you. And you laugh because you're a bugger. I'm like, right, but you had a reason for doing that too. So now it's you, my love.
Right. So the whack just comes from the back that there's not an appreciation, because the way that he took it, you were feeling good, right? And he's not feeling good. And that's just back to my guy in a wheelchair. It's kind of like I couldn't go there. So if you could have matched his depressed state and gave him the $20, he would have been delighted with you. But the way he saw that $20 was that you just insulted him, saying, here's $20, go away. I don't want to have to look at you, right? And so that's not what you were thinking, but it's the way he translated it. So because he saw your joy, and he thought, who do you think you are? I never experienced joy. So, yes. So probably giving him $20 wasn't the wisest thing to do, right? I get a lot of people come over and say, have any loose change? I says, I have a lot of it, but I'm not going to give it to you. And see, when I say I'm not going to give it to you, what? I'm matching where they're at. They don't
Right.
ever get a break.
Yeah.
So now I don't get whacked. It's like, I'm not giving it to you.
Right.
And they look at me and they just walk away, right? Because everybody says no to them. So I don't get clobbered. If I would have been nice to them, I would have got clobbered because they would have think I took advantage of you. Ha ha ha. It's like, you see, you got to get on a level playing field to be able to, so you got to go where they're sitting and to be able to come back to that, right? And be able to play on that level. You could have done it, but you were just in delight. So, so it just is what it is. So you got whacked. That's all.
Yeah.
And you can feel
Now,
that in the stomach. It's like it
right.
hit you.
Yeah, and it was physical pain, which I've learned, of course, and because of the lots of the tools that you've shared with me and taught me metaphysically, protect myself with, and then teach others. Now,
Right.
Recently I was in Kauai, and I was
Yeah.
going into the big Walmart there, and there was a girl outside asking for change, and I walked in, said to her, I don't have any because I have my phone, but I wasn't about. I walked around and I remembered about that guy. It's funny we're talking about it now, like 20 years
Right.
later, and I said to myself, I found like 8, 10 or something. Maybe my thing was I found a 20, right? I
Right.
bought something, I had $8 left. And I said to myself, if that girl's outside, I'm gonna give her my cash because I can today. And I remembered that man, and I managed my energy on purpose, Dr. Chris.
Right. Yes.
And I walked out, and she's standing right in front of me, and I went, there you go. And I had no feeling about it at all. And I used the tool you taught me again, neutrality. I went into complete neutrality. I don't care if she jacked up. I don't care. It was my decision to give it because I had it, but I don't care, and I'm not attached to your story. It was a moment where she had a need. I could feed it. I don't care what you do with it. So, and that for me was like almost a return event of the energy I experienced, where the other homeless or perceived poor person in our, programmed view, how that kind of whole energy matching or not matching was generated. It's really quite fascinating. I know that we've been going here, and we could just keep continuing, but I think that we've given a lot of thought, in the different areas that we've gone, and I very much want to bring you back where we can warm people up and share some of the brilliant techniques that you helped me with many years ago, and thousands of other people. Is there anything else at this stage that you feel it's important to leave as we bring this to a close?
Well, I think that we're evolving in a direction of becoming a global people, and not just tribal people with going to war. The tribal people were just being defensive. They didn't match. They didn't get along. Some of them were peaceful. Some of them weren't. I think when we become a global people, one planet, I think that's what our goal is. I think it's going to take maybe another 1,000 years, but it's a trip of 1,000 years. It's still just one step at a time, no matter what. We won't live that long, but somebody will live that long. So it has to start somewhere, and it's been starting for quite a while, and we're moving in that direction. I think that we need to be able to treat people, and this is what we're talking about today, treat people as if they were all on equal grounds. Find that place. If you sit there and you say, I'm not going there, I don't believe in that, that person is evil, or whatever the story is, okay, that's fine. You don't have to go there. But then don't talk to that person, because that's where they live. Step away from them. It's kind of like, come on. It's like someone trying to convert you into their ideology. If they show up and they're obnoxious, arrogant, they're trying to convert you, and they want to get you onto their type. No, it's like, I'm not going there. So that's where it comes back with just being able to push from your crown and say, you go enjoy your potential, whatever that is. I'm going to go do my potential. Goodbye. We're not going anywhere into this matrix that is starting to form and develop in you becoming that global person somewhere in the future. I don't know if you believe in lifetimes, 20 lifetimes from now, whatever. I don't care. Nonetheless, it's just a progress. I can feel the difference when I'm upset, and everybody else, I imagine, can. Or when I'm happy, I feel the difference. I can feel the difference when I'm imagining a potential. I can feel the difference when I'm planning a vacation and a trip. And I planned a trip. I had a friend of mine said, I go on your trips and everything all worked out. It's just like amazing. It all works out. And when I do that, I run into problems, or whether it's Brad, it's the buses don't get, it's like, you don't ever have those problems. I said, I don't live where those problems live. The problems are out there. I just don't go there. So when you contract with someone, I had a group in Mexico one time. I got a guy on the phone. I said, we want to tour. I'm going to take this group and tour a couple of wineries here in Ensenadas area. And the guy said, sure. And he told me how much and everything. He says, I'll be there in 2 vans. I'll pick everybody up. It says, great, here it is. 4 weeks out, everything. And he said, bring cash, of course, because, And I said, sure, no problem. It's Mexico. And so everybody, I've got 20 people at a retreat center down there. We all go out to the road to meet this guy at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's going to pick us up. And the girls are saying, well, do you have a phone call for those guys? Do you have a way to contact them if they're late or something? Do you know their name? I says, I don't know anything. I just bumped into them down here. I talked to them on the side of the street. They had a van and they said they would do it. I don't know anything about them. I don't know their name. I don't know where they do this for a living. I don't know anything. And she goes, you think they'll come by? I don't know that. We'll just see, right? But you see, when I talked to them, it wasn't like I was trying to book something and they were just the servants. No, I was talking to them because I'm building an adventure. They could seize the moment. They could see the adventure too. We had a beautiful luncheon at a winery. It was just like we were out in plants and stuff. It was just beautiful. So these guys showed up. I gave them the cash, got in there. We spent the whole day with them. We even had dinner. It was dark when we got back. It was an amazing day. And anyone else would have said, Chris, you're crazy. You should have had booking. You should have got confirmation. You should have got phone numbers. You could have had yeah, maybe. I don't know. But I had that connection here. Like this works, right? You see this when it works, and you see this when it doesn't. You want to heal someone, you got to go to this place of having the connection, right? All right. Because otherwise, why? People call and say, hey, I got a problem. My left arm don't work. Can you fix me? And I go, give me a reason, right? I had a lady that said, I remember I called you one time for something, you hung up on me. I called back 2 days later and then you talked to me. Yeah, I said, you were trying to push your problem off of me. What do I care, right? What do I care, right? So, but once you told me why you wanted a healing, I said, okay, I'll support that. I can find that place. I can go there. Let's just do it. Let's just do it. No problem, right? You have to have that communication. You have to be able to take this stream of potential and navigate it out there so that you can work with another person exactly in that place, exactly in that venue, exactly in that scope. That's it. And that's where it all works. Come on. So like playing on the swings, somebody pushes, somebody rides, right? You take turns. You get on the swing, somebody pushes you. Okay, now it's you get off, they get on, and you push them. That's life, right? You share. You got to be in the same space. You both got to want to go play in the swings. That's it. You got to get someone who's willing to play on the swings with you. You got to share in that experience. That's uniting peace, and that's where it goes. And so you got to be there and not somewhere else thinking that you're better than them. It just doesn't work, right? Or worse than them, which is just as bad, right?
Yeah. In all of the great things that I've learned from you over all these years, I've learned, I think, one of the most things about programming and how easily programmable we are. Now, you mentioned something about maybe a civilization, humanity evolving in 1,000 years. Okay, and it was just a statement that you made. It doesn't mean it's real, doesn't mean it's true. It doesn't mean that timeline is correct. I want people to recognize out there, how many of you got triggered by what Dr. Chris just said? A lot of you, because a lot of people that watch my channel are very invested in the galactic truth of our planet, as I am. And we're looking at the changes, and we're inside 23 now, 2023. Like, this is a year for me, as far as I'm concerned, of real massive disclosure. We don't want to think about 1,000 years, but don't let yourselves out there get triggered by that, because that's your decision to then feel low because, oh God, Dr. Chris, because he's a doctor, psychology, etc. Why would he say that? Well, he can say what he likes. you out there, it's your opportunity to decide whether him saying 1,000 years or not is going to make a difference to you, an impact on you, or give you an energy whack, right? So that's kind of emotion, some of the things you've been sharing, Dr. Chris, that we can
Right.
help viewers like recognize
Right.
in this moment, right?
Right. So when I'm looking at a model, once again, the models are all structured. And when you talk about patterns in people, those are a piece of structure too. So when we look at a model, I read a lot of books. So I read 40, 50 books a year. So when you start to look at a model, when you look at evolutionary psychology, Keaton is one of my favorite people in writing in books. It's a little complex when we start to write ideas of things developing in ideas. But it's the dance of being able to take concepts and ideas that we see people write about that are not all that popular in the world. New ideas, new concepts, new ideas. And then we start to see them unfold and we start to see them popular. I just been on a planet a long time, and I can remember, I can remember when gas was 12 cents a gallon. I remember candy bars were 2 cents. So all of a sudden, if I would have known, I could have bought a lot of Hershey's candy bars and made money on selling them today, but I didn't expect to live this long. And yes, there's a lot of things that we could do. When we start to look at a model unfolding, the thing to remember is that your potential is your model unfolding. I don't know how that's going to unfold. I don't even care, right? I got my potential unfolding. You got your potential unfolding. We could talk about a million different ideas. You live in Hawaii. That's great. You lived somewhere else for a while. I lived somewhere else for a while. I moved. It's like all that is all fine and good. Do I think this is the best place in the world to live? Well, I think it's less traffic than the last place I lived. I wanted to get away from the traffic and all the noise and the high prices and blah, blah, blah. And the pollution. Yeah, I think so. Most certainly. So we have an idea that this is better than what we just did. So we moved in a direction. So that value came from the structure of the move. If it unfolds a certain sort of way, will it have value to you? You got it. Most certainly will. If it unfolds in someone else's model, does it have value to them? I imagine so. That's what they thought it was going to be. I have no idea, one way or the other. So do I care if I die in 10 years, or do I care if I live for another 100 years? I don't know. I think it'd probably be a little easier dying in 10 years since his body's getting a little old and stiff here. But I never expected, I was a very unhealthy kid. I never expected to be around this long, right? So, I never went to high school reunions or anything like that. I was kind of always a very independent person. And so I just happened to be in Southern California when my class reunion would have been for 50 years. I went by the school building is still there. I went by and I said, hey, I graduated from the school 50 years ago. Are we going to have a reunion in 50 years? I mean, I never came to the rest of them. And they're looking at me and said, what's your name? And I told them, and they said, we thought you were dead. And I said, okay. There's a lot of people that probably wish I was dead, but I'm not quite dead yet. But nonetheless, why'd you think I was dead? Well, we sent letters to you, and they've always come back. Well, my father died, so my mother remarried. So her last name, and so it's different. So when I moved on, the mail never got to that address anymore. And that just went all the dead letter or whatever. It never got forwarded after a while. So they thought I was dead. But they said, no, to answer your question, there is nobody alive that you went to school with. Those 106 people are dead. And the lady had all the paperwork. She says, I read this in the paper. I live here. I cut it out and I put it into these books because I was a teacher. I've been here all these years. So he said, yes, I'm about ready to retire myself. But she says, I've got all these notes. I was young teacher when you were here. And I said, yeah, I don't actually remember you, but yeah, okay. It's like, whatever. And she says, yeah, so I'm just impressed that you're alive. She said, I'm sure it was the Vietnam War or whatever, but nonetheless, they're all dead. So I sit there and I go, wow, maybe I should have went to some of those unions. Maybe it was, well, I didn't. Is there a right answer? I don't think there's a right answer. It just was what it was, right? It wasn't obviously in my potential. It wasn't, did I need to go meet them? Did I need to go see them? Did we need to talk about the dances that we went to or the music we listened to? Or I didn't want to do that then. I still don't want to do that, right? It's just, I'm always forward thinking. What's it going to be like tomorrow? I couldn't, if this game ends, okay, no problem. We play a different game, right? Is it always going to be a game? It always got to have a stream of potential, or what would be in it? I mean, we obviously don't want to be slaves to someone's ideas or system that's never really inspired us in any way, shape, or form. Anybody, it's human, and doesn't do much for animals either. You take a look at animals that are mistreated and not happy campers, right? And so if you can have workhorses and treat them with respect and they have a relationship with them. I've seen that. I've gone horseback riding. I like horses. It's like we get along just fine, you know. Yes, I weigh close to 200 pounds, but that horse and they're going to have a problem hauling me around. I'm next to nothing, right? So those are the elements of being able to, how does this match up? How does this relate? We have to be able to have that potential to be able to go all those places. If you can't go to that place because they're angry, they're mad, they're jerks, you have to step away. Yeah, because you're going to get hurt. You got to step away. You can't make them come to your level. That's power. That's just not the game. It's really not the game. You have to say, okay, maybe someday we can be friends once I can get there. That's it, you know, and just that's life, I think. And so, yeah, it's a game. It's just a game. We can have a lot of fun with it. Is it going to change? Oh, sure. Would it be going to change? Yeah. What the heck, right? It's kind of like Monopoly. You put all the stuff in a box, put it in a cupboard, pull out another game. Yeah. But until the game shows up, then we're just mapping the outside world. We're looking at a momentum. We can look back historically and see how we evolved. We can see how that we learned. And so before it was either like Joseph Campbell said, he said, everything on this planet either eats or is eaten by something else on this planet. So this game is not necessarily a friendly game. And we had to learn to not be eaten. And the best thing in not being eaten is to start to make friends. And then you can start to share. And so that's where Joseph Campbell was trying to go with it. It's like, that's what drove him all his life to explore the world, right? He wanted to find where's the common ground. How can we sit on judgment on anybody, right? Everybody's got their share of problems. I don't care where you're at. The Irish, the British, the Ukrainians, everybody, right? Not a big deal. It's just like it goes through, you know. You and I have moved because there was like, okay, this is not working for me. And then we move, right? That's exactly what we do. So that's it. So we always have to be in motion. We don't have to pack and leave, but we most have to be in motion. We have to be engaging. We have to. When I moved in, the first thing I did was throw a party. I got a gazebo in front of my house and I had all the neighbors come over. When COVID hit, I took 3x5 cards. I typed them all up on my computer, posted it on there, and told all my neighbors, I'm a retired person. If you need toilet paper, you need potatoes, you need something from the store, and you're working and you got jobs and you can't do that, just email me. I'll go get it for you. I'll put it on your front porch. You can pay me when COVID's over. And that's what I did. I just went and got stuff, right? It's like not a big deal. I had time. I just went and helped them. I just put the stuff on their porch. It's like, and you know, some of them actually have come over and said, here, you know, you left it on my porch with a receipt and said, don't pay me till COVID's over. It's over. Here, I'm going to give you your money. Here's an envelope. Here's the $6.85 you spent, or $12 or whatever it was. And some of them never did pay me, and that's fine too. I know, right? It doesn't matter, right? So I think that we have to have that interaction, and we need to support it all the time. And however that unfolds. And the more that we can match all these things, the more ranges we have. And so the nicer we can be with people, the more interactive we can be with people. I think that's how the world's going to get along someday. So I might as well practice now, you know. And if we take off and go somewhere else, we're still going to have to learn to get along somewhere, right? We still got to learn that lesson, no matter where we go. All right. So we've talked forever. Anything else? I'm getting your voice this time. Are you getting mine? Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah. It's okay. I just not picking up your voice, but it's probably recording. I don't know. You can hit test on your mic to see if it feeds back if you want to. No, it's okay. All right. Yeah. So now I'll.
Come. Well, hello, we're back. It seems
yeah.
that a blonde moment occurred, and I was just saying that I've only just found my mic. I forgot to put. I was so excited about chatting to you that I forgot to put my mic on, and I put it on, and I kind of pressed the button, and then I don't think anybody heard what I said at the end, which was, Dr. Chris Lemmon, it's always a great time with you. Love having you on. Love the areas that we go. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with you to explore and share some of the beautiful metaphysical exercises that you shared with me and thousands of others over the years.
Right. Yes, I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent.
So have fun, and everybody out there, make a friend, read a book, enjoy life, right?
100%, 100%. Okay,
right.
Well, we'll see you soon, guys. Goodbye.